It is just a huge honor to bring to the show Greg Pellegrom. He's the co-founder and CEO at SmileSnap. After 15 years as a sales professional, he recognized a tremendous opportunity to expand the dental market and make oral health care accessible to everyone through virtual consultations. SmileSnap is a SaaS platform that facilitates, software as a service platform that facilitates initial engagement with patients seeking information online and dental providers. This supportive technology is designed to save everyone time and improve the results of traditional office consultations through the transparency of information before ever stepping foot into a dental practice. SmileSnap is a virtual consultation software built for dentists and orthodontists looking to offer more personalized patient experiences that increase your conversion rate, reduce your physical chair time, and strengthen your brand. The way dental practices acquire new patients is broken. They have lost their way by serving their own internal processes instead of focusing on the customers, the patients that we serve. By shifting the new patient process to bring the consultation to them first, you offer not only additional comfort and convenience to the communities you serve, but you overcome time, dentistry's biggest competitor. At SmileSnap, they are on a mission to help our industry evolve to be able to not only bring more patients to dentists that are ready to do more, but they are finding new ways to get back to the practices that can implement virtual solutions effectively. Fast track your practice's digital transformation, increase the power of your team with SmileSnap's winning virtual solutions. The premier virtual consultation platform in the dental industry. You now have 1,200 practices worldwide.
Yeah, mostly in the US, but we're also in Canada and Australia.
Well, those aren't countries. Those are just they're just wannabe kingdoms. But thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks for having me. We just celebrated 2 years, in fact, last month in April. So we feel pretty good about that number. We got a boost from the pandemic, but we have a lot of opportunities still to grow.
well, this pandemic, it just changes everything. I mean, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I remember, the first time I've ever had any problem at today's dental or dental town, and the team's all stressed out. I'm like, let's take the first time dental town was hacked into. It was by one of our own members, and everybody got upset. I'm like, no, this is great. It's like we didn't get a consultant to see if we had a bug that you could get into, but we had a member that just loved doing this stuff, and he found the door. And I said, thank him for doing this. He found the opening, and then I sent him an email. I said, try to do it again. And I never heard back. And I think this one of the biggest problems in dentistry is the conversion rate. I mean, all the data I see, and numbers are an art and a science. Like you can't even Google how many towns are in the United States. You have to put in cities, towns, boroughs, precincts. I mean, good data is hard to find. For instance, how many dentists are in the world? Most people agree it's about 2 million. 1 million that practice like us in the United States, Canada, Australia, and 1 million out in the underdeveloped world where they don't have cell phones or smartphones or whatever. But I look at the digital age, and the numbers I see is takes about, if 100 people land on your website, only 3 call the office. And then if 3 call the office, your receptionist only converts 1 to come in. And 3 people have to come in for a cavity for you to get one of those cavities done. And with all that, there's 750,000 in collections, and doc makes, $1.75. It's like, good Lord, fix anything along that funnel. I mean, so I look at these virtual consultations as instead of calling up and say, do you guys do root canals? Yes. Okay, thanks, bye. But to see a human and make contact and start a relationship and I mean, how could this not increase your conversion rate? How?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, some of those numbers you put out there are kind of scary that you're able to run a business off of those. And, the reason that I started SmileSnap 2 years ago with a good friend of mine, he had the technology background of building SaaS platforms since the late 90s.
Is that David Joza?
His name is Jameson Stafford, and Jameson knew little to nothing about dentistry, but he can code with the best of them. And when I contacted him about this idea, it made sense to him, but I had no idea how to build it. So we, ultimately what I wanted to do is just get more people to begin that engagement with the dentist, with the specialist about services that they needed. As a rep in the field, a lot of my conversations that I was having with my doctors were not about treating the patient or moving teeth. It had to do more with all the changes that were taking place in the industry. Hey, I've got a new guy opening up across the street from me. Hey, I've got this corporate dental practice opening down the street from me. I'm seeing all of these different changes, new universities expanding their programs, and they were feeling threatened. They didn't quite know what to do. But the big one for a lot of my orthodontists that I was calling on were my general dentists are not referring to me like they used to. And I'm having a hard time getting patients. And in my mind, Howard, it just didn't make a lot of sense. The only way that you really could get a consultation with an orthodontic practice was to pick up the phone, call them, schedule, go in. And all I'm trying to find out is three basic things. Am I a candidate? Roughly what's it going to cost? And about how long is it going to take? And it was a big ask of someone to go just to find out that information. So I thought, why don't we use the most powerful tools in the world, right? Smartphones, to get people to just take some basic photos of their teeth, submit them to the practice, and begin that dialogue of the three things I just mentioned. And once we make that connection, take it from there. And you nailed it about the website, right? Everybody's got a website now. This is where most people start when they begin researching anything. There's 80 million millennials in this country today. Gen Z is following that. This is where they start. And it's not just okay to have a website now. You have to have a way for them to engage and get meaningful information. So whether that be live chat for those that have some questions, whether it be the ability to schedule online, which has some benefits, but there's also some drawbacks to it. Or maybe they just want to jump right into that virtual consultation and say, hey, doc, here's my teeth. What do I need? And let's begin this process. And that's really where the idea was born for SmileSnap.
And who did you say your technical friend was that helped you?
So the other co-founder in this business, his name is Jameson Stafford.
Jameson Stafford.
Yeah.
Huh.
So I dragged him into the dental industry. He's learned a lot more about teeth and dentistry than he ever thought. But
and did he have a dental background?
No dental background. He's done a lot in automation, some AI, but some e-commerce platforms, and he's the CTO and the primary architect of our software. So very fortunate that I had a childhood friend that when I contacted him with the idea that was living up here, that he could actually build it for me. And of course, build it at no charge other than 50% equity in the business. So it worked out.
And my gosh, programming is the new doctor. I mean, when I was in high school, I mean, the physicians and dentists and orthodontists, I mean, they were just the kings. And my next door neighbor was a dentist, and I followed that. But my God, today I think the new doctor is a programmer. And
we have several on the payroll, and I would say that they do incredibly well, especially now. I mean, all businesses are going online. They're expanding their digital footprint, right? And in dentistry, it's no different. We're going through this change, and you often hear it said, moving from an analog world to a digital world in dentistry. And I think it's fantastic. There's some incredible innovation going on. It's not necessarily being done from some of the large blue chip established dental companies out there. It's starting in people's basements and garages and home offices like SmileSnap did, and evolving. So I think there's a lot of really exciting new technologies that are happening in dentistry for sure.
And your buddy, Jameson Stafford, he's in Nashville, Tennessee. That's where Smiles Direct is.
Yeah, he actually has a couple of places that he bounces around to, but Nashville is one of them. But that's the beauty, right, of coding. You can do it from anywhere. So,
And what I like about it is my mom is 83, and whenever she goes to the doctor, you know, the scariest part of the whole journey is her getting in her car and driving batshit crazy across town to go to some doctor, and she won't slow down. And now when she has a question, she just gets on her iPad that me and my brother got her, and she just does that all the time. And I mean, God, it's so nice.
Yeah.
And why can't and then I saw just recently what else oh yeah, one of my grandbabies, the mom was thinking about driving her down to the emergency room because of an ear infection or whatever. And when she called down there, they did it virtual. I mean,
Yeah.
they just talked to her, and I mean, it was really cool to hear them talk, and you know, it's just saved the whole damn emergency room visit, traffic going in there. Now, are you primarily an orthodontic play?
So the platform, the software itself from day one was built to work across all areas of dentistry, right? So from general dentist, pedo, perio, ortho, you name it. The reason that probably today 90% of our customers are orthodontists is that's where my particular background and network resided. So when we were rolling this out, my focus was in the area that I knew, the people that I knew, and the network that I had. We do have several general dentists, and as well as some pedo practices using the platform incredibly well, I might add. They're the ones that we kind of look to and say, how do we expand this within the general dental market? And for the answer we get routinely is, you just got to get this out there. It's all about awareness of what you can do, because once a general dentist or another specialist discovers the power of SmileSnap and the way that our software is designed and how our virtual consults and our virtual visits work, it's an absolute no brainer. So obviously hoping this podcast will help with that.
Well, I hope so too. You know, it's orthodontist. They're quite different than dentists because they, you know, the average treatment's $6,500, and they're going to realize that in 24 months. The average dentist to get that ortho revenue of $6,500 is going to take more like 60 months. And so when you got out of school, and like I did in 1987, they were amongst the first to start advertising because they could track the return better. I mean, you do an ad and it gets you 3 new patients, and you convert one, boom. Now you got $6,500. What did the ad cost? And it is not uncommon for me to see the they were the first practices that I ever saw that passed the 5% of collections goes to marketing, and all the way to 10. I mean,
Yeah.
there are big boys out there. 10% of revenue goes straight back into marketing, and they just have all kinds of starts. So I think that return on investment in 2 years versus 5 really gets them focused.
Sure. And if we look at the lifetime value of a patient, right, I think it changes. Orthodontists have to constantly be hunting to fill that funnel and find new patients. Yes, you may bring in a family that has, multiple children, and then it's mom or dad's turn to get it. And that's great. But whereas, they're constantly moving through these patients, and they have to continually fill that funnel so that there's a steady flow of new patients coming through. The general dentist, oftentimes, I know me, I moved to the town I live in 20 years ago, and I'm still at the same practice that I went to. Now it's changed hands one time, but I stayed there. So the lifetime value is really good, on the general dental side. But I wanted to go back, Howard. You mentioned about your mom and the dangers of going to the dentist, right? When we first came up with SmileSnap, it was mainly the number one reason we wanted to do this was really convenience. We just wanted to make it really easy and convenient for people to begin that journey of whether it be getting an implant, finding out what dentures are going to cost, or getting an Invisalign treatment. How do we capture those people from the website? How do we prevent them from going to the next website, engaging with us, and then converting them into a patient, right? Because we all start off as consumers when we're out there on the internet looking. But how do we actually get them into the office and convert them into a patient? So SmileSnap is built as a software. It's a widget or a pop-up modal that you put directly onto the practice's website. And then it can be fully customized and branded to that practice. And you can focus on whatever services you want. If you're a dentist and you only want to focus on implants, that's fine. If you're a dentist and only want to focus on dentures, we have some practices doing that too. And really, once you're driving traffic to the website or to these separate landing pages where SmileSnap lives, it gives that patient just a quick and easy way to answer some questions, enter their contact info, submit some photos, and then they're done. They get to go back to their life and what they really want to be doing. And now the ball is in the court of the practice. And we've got an app, a mobile app that's built. So whether it be the office manager, the treatment coordinator, the doctor, whoever wants to respond to this patient, they get alerts immediately and they can respond immediately. And we see practices responding within hours and sometimes within minutes. And then unfortunately, sometimes we see practices that might take a day or days, right? And speed is so important with these types of leads and opportunities that come through. So we've designed this so you can respond quickly 24/7, no matter where you're at, because patients are coming through our platform all day, all night, middle of the night. We just celebrated Mother's Day. We had several hundreds of patients flowing through the system on Mother's Day. We've seen them on Christmas. So people are out there, they want information. Why not give them that access to your practice? Not just when your doors are open and you've got the ability to fit them into a console slot, but give them 24/7 access to your practice. And that's a great way to scale your business efficiently and without costing a whole lot of money.
So I know, so you say well, here, let me read, your own website's words. SmileSnap's online smile assessments widget is easily added to docs, dentists, and orthodontists' website to conduct HIPAA-compliant virtual consults with new and existing patients. No visit required. Patients can submit their information along with 5 photographs of their teeth using a smartphone, tablet, or computer. Doctors then pre-qualify the patient and provide a recommended care plan and pricing. And you say you got 1,200 docs doing it?
Yes, practices plus. We're probably closer to 1,400 now. And I will correct that 5 photos. We've recently made a change to our software where you can actually request whatever photos you like. So some people only, hey, I just need 1 or 2 photos. Some want 7 or 8 photos, depending on what.
How many can you send now? What's the max now?
There is no max, but we do caution people that, look, there are fallout points along the journey. And the more information you ask, the more questions you ask, the more invasive they become, the more photos you want, the higher the likelihood that consumer may not make it all the way through the journey. So we kind of help coach them through our onboarding process. And we've had customers literally sign up and the next day get their first submission or request from a patient. So it's really easy to implement into the practice.
Yeah, and Doc, again, they don't track how many people land on their website each month. I mean, I know my docs, and they want to go take a course. They're cooks in a kitchen, and they want to go learn how to make pastries, or maybe they want to add lasagna or spaghetti or what have you. But they don't know how many people land on their website. They don't know what their conversion rate is. They don't record their incoming calls, so they have no idea what their conversion rate. They can't even tell you how many messages a year went to voicemail that no one ever went in there and even listened to them. And it's and I'm in Arizona where Dsos, the governor, passed a law that if you're licensed to do anything in another state, whether it's a nurse, a hygienist, a dentist, anything, you're licensed in Arizona. So this is ground zero for DSOs. 18 out of 100 Arizona dentists are in a DSO. So, and when you look at the long tail, the last 5 states aren't even at 1%. And so it's the most viciously competitive dental space in America by any measurement. And the DSOs, they got marketing directors who just all they do is this stuff. So Doc can over there be, worrying about trying to find the MB2 during a root canal, and my God, so if you're going to compete with DSOs, you have to wear many hats. So how difficult is this for my homies to learn? How much does it cost a month? How long does it take to onboard your receptionist? Go through some of the logistics of how much time it takes to onboard something like this.
Yeah, no, great question. And I appreciate the way you set that up, because I always say this is not a magic button. This isn't something you just put on your website and, patients magically find it, go through the process and end up in your office. You have to nurture them along the way. Now, as far as getting the software onto the website or your landing page, typically what we'll do is we'll work with the practice's web agency or marketing agency to install the embed code. And again, this can be done in a matter of minutes to get the widget actually onto the website. We do a full hour onboarding session. We do not charge for setup or onboarding fees, where we will walk the practice and anybody who needs to be involved through the software, get it set up, and then we kind of turn them loose for about a week. And then we do a follow-up training session with them. Now, we offer lifetime training with your subscriptions. We don't charge extra. If you, Doc, your front office staff, anybody in the practice needs some additional training and support, we're there for you. And we're not going to nickel and dime you along the way. We want you to be successful with this because there is a learning curve to it. But that's also kind of the fun part is, hey, when a submission comes in, who follows up, right, and reaches out to the patient? What do we want to start with? Some people will start with, and I think this is the most powerful way, Howard, is they have the ability to respond to this patient by clicking right on a button in our software and recording, okay, a personalized response to this patient. Now, we tell them, definitely keep it under 2 minutes. 1 minute to a minute and a half is kind of the sweet spot. But really, if you can do that and tell that consumer, right, who's interested in information, this is what I would do for you. We can make it affordable. We offer lots of different financing options, right? We'd love to see you in here and you're going to walk away either feeling a lot better physically, right? Or looking a lot better and having confidence with that beautiful smile. And that really sets them up for the next step, which is then going to be, now, do we want to bring them in for the consult, or do we want to do that through video as well and give them the option? By doing this process, you filter and screen the consumers or those patients that would call the office schedule and then no show, right? Or schedule online and then no show. Or they do come in, they go through the consult and they realize that it's just, unfortunately, right, no matter how hard you try, not affordable for them. These are the folks that today really are wasting their time and the practice's time. So if you do this pre-screening, these few easy steps, the conversion rates, the case acceptance rates of these patients should be 90+% if you're doing it this way, because they're informed, right? They're excited and they show up ready to start treatment. That's probably the most powerful aspect of doing a virtual consultation, is filtering and screening out the price shoppers, the tire kickers, the not that interested, so on and so forth.
That is now you I know you keep saying ortho over and over and over. But I mean, whether it's my mom talking to her physician, or it's my daughter-in-law talking to the emergency room about my granddaughter's earache, it's really not specific to anything. I mean, my son, Ryan, he's the go-to for all the grandkids for any homework problem. And he just he's a saint, and he set it up in his house. It's so cool. He's got a big old white grease board, and he's got a bunch of teaching aids. And no matter what he's doing, you call up Uncle Ryan, and it's a virtual consult. And he, I don't know if the guy ever made a B in his life, and he just crushes the lesson. So you got your big start. It seems like what percent are you with orthodontists right now? What percent?
About 90%.
Yeah, 90%, but it's 10%. I mean, gosh, there's 12 specialties. And when you start looking at, you started with one specialty, and now you sit there and start looking at the list of specialties. I mean, I'm looking at oral surgery. I got a dry socket. Should I come in? Endodontist, it's still pain. Perio, pediatric dentistry, orthodontics, prosthodontics, dental anesthesiology, oral facial pain, oral med, oral path, oral radiology, dental public health. In fact, I look at the in my own family, one of them just had a dental implant, and she thought she could not eat or chew for 4 months. I said, I'm really freaking sure that's not the plan. And but she was able to call, FaceTime me. Of course, I had the doc's contact in my deal, so she just FaceTime. But that's the same thing. It's a virtual consult. She didn't have to make an appointment. She didn't have to go down there. She didn't have to do anything. So if you got a 90% foothold in orthodontics, and they're the most aggressive advertisers because it's such an easy mathematical equation to figure out the return on $6,500. I would think, roll out 10 years and there might not be any statistical difference between the 12 specialties as far as talking to people. Oral. I mean, phone's just not a good method. I mean, it's like radio.
Phone is not, and neither is filling out a form. And I see a lot of forms still out there on websites. And I honestly, look, there's a reason why Amazon patented the one-click button. It's because 2 clicks were too many, right? We want to do things now. We want information like that. And that's how we're designing and building this platform. So yes, to be clear, this can be used by general dentists and all specialists. If you want to triage emergency patients, if you want to use it just for cosmetic services, anything that if you want to offer your patient base convenience, right, and transparency, this is an awesome platform for that. And this is the stuff that consumers crave nowadays. Don't keep me in the dark and force me to take a half day off work and come in just to find out some information that I should be able to get online or through a quick video chat with you. And then we can move to the next step if needed. And this isn't just for consultations. We have practices that are using this for, like I mentioned, triaging those emergency patients. In ortho, the big one is retainer checks or observation patients, right? To be able to do these virtually online and not require those, mom to bring the child in, take them out of school, so that you can peek in the patient's mouth and say, well, you're not ready for treatment yet. We're going to have you back in 6 months. It really is just an archaic way of doing things. So, there's it, and this platform continues to evolve. Tele-Dentistry is not going to stop evolving. So we're constantly adding new features to the platform to make it easier for both sides. We're always looking at new features and what our direction is to go next to, develop the software in a way that's, going to drive more patients into the practice. It's going to increase the conversions. That's going to, we're looking at different payment options now and things like that. So it's expanding. And the absolute most somebody would pay for our software in a year is $29.99. That's if they're paying monthly for our Pro plan. Most people will either buy our Pro plan on an annual basis, which is $2,500 for the whole year. If they don't want the recorded video component or the live video component or the ability to request specific photos, and they just really kind of want to use it for some basic photo capture, they can get that for $149 a month or $1,500 a year. So we think that the return on investment of our software usually is returned with 1 or 2 patients, and everything after that, right, is positive ROI.
Wow. So, how is the taking it off? How's it going? I mean, what is your pushback? I mean, you got 1,400, mostly orthodontists, and there's about what? How many orthodontists in the United States would you say?
About
12,000?
8,000. About
How many?
8,000 roughly.
No, I own Orthotown, and I know we mail that magazine to, I think, 10,800.
Yeah, some of those might be retired or in academia, but I would say practicing orthodontists, whether they're private practice, solo, or in a DSO, it's probably between that 8 or 9. Who knows? Maybe it's grown.
And you mentioned something great with DSOs. I always tell new companies, I say, look, if you got anything to cook better, I mean, if you could make my pastries never burn and my lasagna always perfectly chewy, I mean, you go talk to the general dentist. You know, your bone grafting technique, any equipment, laser, any of that stuff. But if it's the business of dentistry, you go to the DSOs. They didn't go to dental school, most of them. They know the business. They got MBAs like I do. So I would think the ortho DSOs would be your first place to go, unless they did this in house. How many orthodontic DSOs are on your radar?
Right now, we're currently working with 4 ortho specific DSOs.
What are they? SmileWorks,
No, there's one called Specialty Dental Brands. There's a new group out of Canada called Chorus.
Chorus.
Um,
How do you spell Chorus?
Chorus, Corus.
Chorus, and that's a ortho only.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. And Specialty Dental Brands, is that only
Yeah,
ortho or
they're
all
using it only for ortho right now, but they do have pedo and oral surgery as well. I think they also have endo.
Okay.
So
So
we're starting
Chorus
with
is out of
them.
Canada.
Hopefully, right, going to be expanding into these other areas. A lot of people want to use this to start in ortho, and then as they use it, they go, "Hey, this will also work in pedo and so on and so forth." So we've worked with some of the larger ones prior to the pandemic, but things kind of got sidetracked a little bit.
But what are the ortho DSOs? SmileWorks, Specialty Dental Brands, Chorus in Canada. What
yeah,
else?
there's one in called Orthodontic Experts we work with.
And what do you think of the DSO model? If we were going to have an economic contraction, if we had an economic contraction, it looks like a lot of these are highly leveraged. I noticed when the pandemic broke out, and a year ago, back in March, when the WHO declared it, the stock market had a deep dive before the Fed started increasing the quantity of the money supply. And a lot of those guys were extremely panicked. I mean, they have to have their monthly starts. They have to have their monthly cash flow, because you pay your bills monthly, your rent, mortgage, equipment, build out, computer, insurance, all that stuff you pay monthly. And it doesn't matter that your balance sheet, that you have a monster amount of debt. What matters is that you can cash flow month to month. So I would imagine if the economy gets shaken, marketing goes to the top. And the advantage of being old is I lived through this. And the Y2K, when it popped, that bubble popped. Michael Dell, whose father is an orthodontist, did you know that?
I did not know that. No.
Yeah, and what an amazing man. He told the story about how him and his wife literally cried the night Michael, after 6 weeks of college, moved back home with all of his stuff, and he said he quit. He met all of his instructors are all idiots, and he wanted to start a business in mom and dad's garage. And here he is, an orthodontist. His brother's an ophthalmologist. And they're like, "What the hell went wrong with this guy?" But when that Y2K popped, Michael Dell tripled his marketing budget and
Right.
didn't blink. And everyone else, like, "Oh my God, our sales are going down." They start cutting expenses, and cutting marketing expenses is like putting a plastic bag over your head and asphyxiating yourself. And he tripled his marketing,
Yep.
and just crushed it all the way through the down curve. So I imagine these DSOs, my gosh, when this bubble does pop, And I'm not a futurist. I'm not a palm reader. I'm not a fearmonger. I mean, I've already lived through 4 of these. I graduated from high school in 80. That was 82 was the worst I'd ever seen ever. And I graduated 87 right before Black Monday, lived through Y2K, Lehman's Brothers. I've seen this movie 4 times. I'm in the middle of this movie. I know exactly how it ends. Remember, before the pandemic, Warren Buffett was sitting on 145 billion in cash, and so I imagine your business will explode with highly leveraged DSOs the next time this pops, and the smart ones the next time this bubble farts and lets some air out, they'll triple down on their marketing and pay all their minimum monthly payments for whatever 18, 24 months long it is until they get back to normal ground. Do you agree?
The name of the game is patience, right? Without patience, no practice can exist.
Patient flow equals cash flow.
Yeah, absolutely, right? And I always say, SmileSnap is about getting more people off their couch and into your chairs, but you have to have this mechanism for people to engage and do that. When I think back to when I got into this industry, it was early 2003. Marketing was almost looked at as something that was negative. Oh, I don't need to market. It's not a good thing. And the reality is as an entire industry of dentistry, we've really held ourselves back by having that mindset. Our biggest hurdle at SmileSnap, and you asked me this earlier, what's our biggest hurdle? What's our biggest challenge? It's the mindset of the dentist that we have to convince them that, we have to meet the consumer where they're at, okay? And that is online. And we have to embrace more of these digital offerings. And we have to track and measure some of those data points that you mentioned earlier, Howard. And there's awesome technology out there to do that nowadays. It may be fragmented and not all under one platform where it's super easy to do, but we're getting there. But I have seen, compared to now, I see dental commercials in prime time television, right? This is not inexpensive, right? These companies have multi-million-dollar budgets. And what's happening is it's expanding the whole market. Not just being spent by the large dental companies, but also by the individual practices now who are increasing the amount of marketing spend. When the pandemic hit and practices closed and our business took off, I was talking to a lot of marketing agencies, and they said they had people going one of 2 ways. One took the Michael Dell approach and said, I need to market and increase my spend now, and I need to do more of it digitally online. And others completely turned it off. Well, when your practice closes, and I've been through some of those, the housing market crash and 9/11 and all of that, and I saw my customers' practices take a hit. But if we use the analogy of like a 4-lane highway, right? Even when the housing market crashed, there was still 1 lane open, right? And so some cars were able to get through. With this pandemic, every lane was closed. And then they just start stacking up. But we had a lot of customers, right, that got on the SmileSnap and said, we're doing consults and we're lining people up for starts. So when our doors open, we're just starting patients. We're not wasting our time doing consults. We're not having people, come in and leave having to think about it. They were ready to go. And, we've heard multiple times from our customers that we really helped save their practice. And obviously it makes me feel really good. So,
during
we've got to market more. Everybody wins as the entire, market expands within dentistry, and there's more awareness about oral health, right? Whether it be, hey, I gotta get in and see the dentist because this hurts, or I'm just not happy with my smile. Let me see what's out there. It puts more people into the market.
When this came out, one of the first things the HAS, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services said, notification of enforcement discretion for telehealth remote communications during COVID-19 nationwide public health emergency. It basically said that they were going to be lax. We were in the middle of a pandemic. They were basically saying don't go crazy, but they basically said if you're using your iPhone, your FaceTime, Zoom, don't worry about HIPAA right now. We're kind of in the middle of a pandemic. Is that still kind of the atmosphere of the federal government right now?
Yeah, I haven't seen any updates specifically to that, where HIPAA is going to begin cracking down. But the reality is when we saw that come out, it was specific to a few video conferencing platforms like Zoom and FaceTime and Doxy and some others, right? And those are great if you just want to have some two-way video dialogue. Our platform is so much more than that. It's a full ecosystem. It's got a back-end patient management system where you can move these patients through the funnel, set them at different statuses. There's text communication, there's email communication. Every patient gets their own secure portal, right? And we spent a tremendous amount of money making sure that we were HIPAA compliant from beginning to end on our platform, because eventually they are going to begin, looking at some of these different technologies out there and seeing if they're HIPAA compliant or not. And if not, they're going to have to get buttoned up tight. I'll give you an example. We see a lot of practices using what we call the DIY method. Hey, my web agency is going to build me a page where patients can send in photos. Okay, number one, it's not HIPAA compliant, even if you have them check a box that says, I agree to this. Number two, it's not going to be a great user experience. They're going to struggle to get the photos uploaded. The quality of those photos is not going to be good because they don't have the easy ability to retake them multiple times. And both sides are going to get frustrated. We've made that workflow, so streamlined and easy to do from a laptop, a computer, or through the mobile app that we've built. It's just going to be a much better experience for everyone, and it's going to be safe and secure and HIPAA compliant. And again, if you want to save $150 a month and have your web agency do it, that's one thing. But you're probably going to severely limit the potential of doing virtual consults by not investing in a platform like SmileSnap.
Okay, so you watch Shark Tank?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And who's the smartest guy on Shark Tank by a mile?
Mark Cuban.
No, hell no. It's always the bald guy. The bald guy is always the smartest in the room. And Mr. Wonderful, if you don't want to be dead to Mr. Wonderful, first question he's going to ask is he's going to say, come on, dude, you're not the only one who's had this idea. What are your competitors in the market space? Like I see you're focused a lot on orthodontists. Brian Harris, who's a dentist friend of mine right up the street. And my God, I climbed all the way to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro with that guy. And I want to go on the record to say I never, ever would have made it to the top. The last 1,000 feet, when you spit into the snow, everybody's spit was cherry red because, all the Colorado Rockies are about 14,000 foot, and that thing is 19,000 foot. And I noticed once you got to 17,000 foot, the inside pressure view was so much greater. You could taste, everybody could taste blood. And it was him who turned into the craziest Marine I'd ever seen in my life, standing behind me, screaming at me the whole way, because the guy told us that in his years there, anybody who sat down to take a rest in the last 1,000 foot never, ever got up and went to the top. And I was going to take a breather just for 5 minutes. But anyway, he's got one called Smile Virtual. And he's and that's mostly consults for cosmetic cases, veneers. But who are your competitors, and what is unique about you, SmileSnap, versus Brian Harris, Smile Virtual, and how many other ones do you know about?
Well, I live in Colorado and I've climbed several 14ers, so your analogy resonates with me. But I don't know that last 1,000 feet from 18 and 19. So I can only imagine that. So kudos to you and Brian and anyone else on that trip that made it. Brian and I, we just share the same mindset about, changing the traditional consultation, right, to one that's, more pre-screening, digital. It's just reorganizing some of the things we do. And he's built a great platform. He's a dentist and his network is in dentistry. So I think he carries more GPs on his platform, where my background was ortho and carried more. But again, both great platforms. And we both believe that there's a lot of blue ocean out there to expand our customer bases. So Brian is a great competitor. We also both, and we've talked, feel like, iron sharpens iron, and competition we look at as a good thing. There's more ortho specific. There's one called Ortho Screening out there, and there's one called SmileMate. There's several others out there that have different flavors of the virtual consult or virtual visit. Those are kind of the main
Ortho
ones.
Screening and SmileMate.
SmileMate, yeah, that's another one that we see. Digital Smiles is one we run into.
So are you, if there's a lot of competitors in the space, it means like this market's going to get really developed. How's the speed of this getting developed?
Well, look, dentistry is pretty notorious for having a slow rate of adoption when it comes to new technology. If there's 200,000-ish dentists and specialists here in the United States, we've barely scratched that surface. I would submit that it's probably less than 2 or 3% across the board that are doing virtual consultations. So there's still a tremendous amount of opportunity. And we're not even talking about on a global scale yet as far as expansion goes. So there's a lot of opportunity for all of these competitors out there. I think some may remain as kind of standalone companies. Others may begin to form partnerships with other dental companies that are out there that offer teledental services or software companies. And there's going to be some, I think in this year and the next few, you're going to see a lot of M&A taking place with the software side of things, because as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of fragmentation, right? Going on. And there are companies out there that are trying to bring it all, whether they develop it in-house or they bolt on other technologies, but create sort of a end-to-end seamless situation around new patient acquisition. So, who knows what the future holds. It's been an exciting journey thus far, and I think we've got a long way to go.
Do you have any stats or measurements on what you actually did to the conversion rate? If Doc used to have 100 people a month land on his website, how's that look after they've implemented this?
Sure. We don't have across the board statistics. And the reason being for that, Howard, is we don't have integrations directly with their practice management software systems. It's very challenging to make that happen with them. They always want a chunk of the revenue. So we kind of lose visibility. What we do know is we can look and see how many visitors have been to a practice's website. We can see how many click to activate or open the widget, how many registered, as well as how many then uploaded photos. And then if they are managing those patients through the funnel and they have to manually change the steps or the categories that they have them in, whether it be, consult scheduled, consult completed, and then started treatment. If they're not keeping up on that, we have no way of knowing. So they have to manually change that. What I will tell you is we have several customers that we're in close contact with, and they've reported back to us that their SmileSnap patients are a much higher case acceptance or conversion rate than those that just sort of come in through the telephone, the more traditional methods, if you will.
Kennedy, historians say, beat Richard Nixon because it was the first televised debate, and you had some young, handsome man who, was athletic and hot and all that, and you had Richard Nixon who was old and sweaty and pampering his face and all this kind of stuff. To me, humans aren't an ear-driven species. I mean, birds are, and birds are dinosaurs. I mean, that's one of the first designs. The dinosaurs didn't go extinct, or you wouldn't be eating a Kentucky Fried Chicken. But humans are a totally visual. I just think that the office of the future has to quickly get off audio and talking on the telephone and holding a receiver to a species that codes memory through visual. Again, you're at a party and I walk up to you and you introduce yourself and you say, "Hey, I'm Greg, the pomegranate Pellegrom." And at the end of the night, you know exactly who you're thinking about, but you have to walk out there and go, "Greg," or you go out there and say, "Dude, I'm sorry. What was your name again?" And you always gave him a card because an ape's opposing thumb is far better than his audio memory. But the eyes knew who it was, and it's all visual for humans. It's visual, visual, visual. So the faster this customer can start talking visually to another human being. And then when the research is clear that the actual words might only be like 7% of the communication, it's imperative to get visual. So, I mean, I just think, how long do you think it'll be before everybody's incoming call is just a visual FaceTime?
Yeah, that's going to be a while, right? I like to think it's going to happen sooner, but if I'm being realistic about it, we don't have any practices that are exclusive virtual consultations only. In fact, we tell people, look, at first, learn to walk, crawl with this before you're walking, and walk before you jog, and then before you run. What's great about a virtual consultation with a practice the way they've been doing it traditionally is you say, look, give the patient the option, let them decide. Hey, we can get you in a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is. Or we also offer a virtual process. This is how it works. Both are great. And you can get a great virtual experience, okay, through video, through text, through email, or a combination thereof with your existing patients, with potential new patients, that they're going to love you because you just made things more convenient for them. I, in fact, just got over about a month and a half ago a pretty nasty battle with COVID myself. I had to go to Michigan to visit my mom who was in the hospital, picked it up there, came back. And I was kind of entering my third week, and I had been to a couple of urgent care clinics. And finally, I myself experienced my first telehealth visit with my doctor online. And it was great to just kind of have this video chat, because the last thing I wanted to do when my body was aching and I felt like, just dog crap, was get dressed, get in my car, and go anywhere. So that convenience was huge. And I got what I needed. And, within a few days, I was starting to feel better. So this is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's a matter of, when do you want to get on the virtual train? Do you want to start implementing this into your practice now? Do you want to wait a little bit? Do you want to be one of the late majorities? Where in that, cycle of crossing the chasm do you want to be? But I think within 10 years, you're going to have this digital experience, new patient acquisition process in 90% of the dental practices out there.
These are interesting times. So when my homies go to your website, smilesnap.com, smilesnap.com. Mm-hmm. My gosh, that's an easy name. I'm surprised you were able to get that. Good for you. What are they going to find?
So, they're going to find basically a lot of the information we talked about, what it is, how it works. I think the most important thing that they can do there really is look at what they get between the two different offerings, our starter plan and our pro plan, and the pricing. We're very transparent. We don't require any long-term contracts. Everything's month to month. We don't want to hold anybody hostage. And like I said, I think something that we do that's really important is we handhold you through that, onboarding and training experience. We don't charge extra for it. We're always there if you need additional training at no charge. We want you to be successful with this software. The most important thing they could do would be to schedule a demo. And there's a button for that right on the homepage. There's a big call to action. Or if they prefer to watch a recorded video, a demo of the software, that is there as well. So they can watch that on their own time. Or, if you want one of our account executives to kind of walk you through, explain how it works, answer your questions. They're fantastic at understanding the nuances of the software and how it works in a dental practice. So that's what you'll get at smilesnap.com.
And you're sitting at a very high macro level, looking over 1,400 practices. You've been out a couple of years. You were pre-pandemic, during the pandemic. Do you see of your 1,400 people, how close are they to pre-pandemic levels? Are they back, or are they almost back, or are they past pre-pandemic?
So a lot of this is just through conversations that I've had with a lot of them, and I can tell you more of them are having record years this year, and finished so incredibly strong last year for a few reasons. I think that goes back to that analogy of blocking all the lanes of the highway, and the patients were just kind of stacking up. But I give them a lot of credit because our customers didn't sit back during the pandemic. They didn't spend their time complaining about it. They got busy. They used that time to look at technologies, implement it, figure out what are we going to do so that when our doors do reopen, we're successful and we can maintain that and continue it. So they doubled down on their marketing. They implemented virtual consultations and appointments. And that, along with, like we talked earlier about, just that whole market awareness around dentistry, they're in a position because they updated their website and they have these tools where they're busier than ever before. And I've had several of those conversations lately, and I can tell you that these forward-thinking marketing mindset practices are doing incredibly well.
And you have partnerships, and one of them is Dean Steinman, president of Ortho Marketing, partner of Aligner. He's a marketing expert. What is working? We have a lot of orthodontists. We have Ortho Town, and I think almost every one of them is also a member of Dental Town. I see them post back and forth the same. But what is working the best? I mean, what is what is Dean Steinman doing at Ortho Marketing? And he's a partner with you. Why is he a partner with you? How do you guys work together? And more importantly, what's just working?
Yeah, so I met Dean right when the pandemic kicked off because a lot of these marketing agencies were looking for tools to help their customers, when their doors were going to shut, and Dean was one of them. And I've had conversations with our partners, and for a lot of them, there is no one silver bullet. It is a combination of having good email drip and nurture campaigns, where they're, constantly pinging on a regular basis potential patients. Social media ads are big. In particular, Facebook and Instagram still drive a lot of traffic for them. It's having a good, solid website that helps to convert those patients through the journey. So it's a broad mix of things that they do, Howard. But what every one of them will tell you, and I agree, is that building a brand and getting your marketing, your messaging down and getting it out to your community is a long-term play. Don't think, hey, for 3 months, I gotta increase my revenue, get more patients through the door. I'm going to throw X amount of dollars at this for 90 days and see what I get. You have to find the agency that resonates with you, commit to it over a long-term period and make that investment, because any good agency will prove to you over time that you are getting that return. You are growing your practice. But you can't just jump in, jump out, jump in, jump out, switch from one, switch to the next. Otherwise, you'll never get established with your digital marketing.
And what is a bigger threat to orthodontists? Is it do-it-yourself orthodontics? Is it the economy? What do you think is their biggest obstacle right now? Or
They're
their biggest
not going to
competitor.
like this answer, but they're their biggest enemy most of the time. I used to always talk about that orthodontists in the United States were credited with treating about 1% of the US population per year. Yet when you would ask them what percentage of the population could benefit from your services, right? Whether it be just fixing a mild malocclusion, or some straightening of the social six, or what that might be, they would tell you, right? That's probably closer to 80%. Well, how are we not eating a larger slice of this pie? And again, a lot of it is just that mindset of, I don't market. This is how I get my patients. This is the way we've done consults. The more that they open up to these new ideas and meet today's consumers, the millennials, the Gen Zs, even the Gen Xers like me who are just like tech fanatics, and I love all these things that are out there today, they're going to find themselves, there's plenty of patients. And whether someone's doing direct to consumer out there, regardless of what flavor it is, maybe including the orthodontist or not, Invisalign went retail, that had to come out, but there's going to be retail orthodontists. There's plenty of patients out there. It's about increasing that awareness and then greater access to your practices and giving those patients what they want, not always necessarily what you want. And that's what's going to help the ortho specialty thrive. And I think they've got some really bright years ahead of them if they're the ones that are willing to, implement some of these new and exciting technologies.
Yeah, I agree because like I say, I took my boys, 1 to 4 of those boys, to 50 different countries lecturing, and I don't care if we were in Cambodia or my gosh, I don't care where we were. If you're at a restaurant, bar, anywhere, and the waitress finds out you're a dentist, the first question out of their mouth is Invisalign. And I remember being in South Africa, which is, I've never been to the Congo, which is the worst economy in the world today. The United Nations says it sets extreme poverty at $5.50 a day. But South Africa, it was 1/4 unemployment, 1/4. And 1/4 also tested positive to HIV. Because remember when it first came out, they weren't good, they weren't going to believe it or any of that kind of stuff. And even under those rock bottom conditions, um, everyone's asking about Invisalign. And it just goes to show that the number one goal of a species is to reproduce and have offspring. And the most complicated behavior humans will ever learn is attracting another mate to mix gametes with and incubate for 9 months and try to make something to replace you so that we don't go extinct. And when I look at the orthodontic market, the only 2 markets that are growing in double digit is always clear aligners and implants. And believe it or not, the implant market still doesn't have anything to do with chewing and eating and form and functions. They're not getting implants because they can't eat a cheeseburger at McDonald's. Hell, they're 1/3 of them are morbidly obese. They're getting it for the same thing. The peacock deal. They smile and there's a missing tooth. They got a denture. It slips and slides. It's all about looking as pretty as a peacock so that someone will mate with you. And if no one mates with you, you'll end up like my oldest sister, who's been a Catholic nun for 40 years, right? So this is going to be, orthodontics is going to go away shortly after the extinction of the species, because they're going to do anything they can to mate. And I thought this mask thing was really, really interesting because even though I'm a dentist, even though at the end of a movie for 50 some years, you're talking to who you went to the movie with and they're talking about this. And I'm like, you mean the guy with the gap between his teeth? Yes. I knew the gap and she knows the guy's name in the movie. And I was even blown away at when all the masks started covering all the faces, how much information I was not able to get and to see, and how, I was really stunned by that. So this is nothing but growth.
The opportunity is huge. And again, it all goes back to mindset and implementing this stuff, right? The more people we can get into the top of the funnel, regardless of the reason of why they want to have some dental services done, whether it be because they're in pain or they just want to improve the aesthetics of their smile. If we provide and offer those services and compromise with those patients, we've made it a lot more affordable for them through whether it be third-party financing or different options that are out there for them. Just creating that awareness, providing that access, offering some level of transparency about it. And all of a sudden, right, we go from trading 1% for ortho in the US to now we're probably approaching that 2 to 2.5%, which still is a very small number. So everybody, some people did really panic about the direct to consumer model. And, my take on it was, look, here's the good they did. Ready? Number one, they proved that if you bring awareness to it, right? The amount of marketing, the commercials that you saw from them was just right out of the gate was significant with Smile Direct Club. So they created a tremendous amount of awareness. And then they were transparent about pricing. Okay. Not that an orthodontist should necessarily charge what they do. They shouldn't. But what they were saying is like, look, if you give people a means to find out, am I a candidate? What's it cost? How long is it going to take? They're going to go that next step. If you just give them a website and tell them where you went to school and here are some services that we do, and they have no idea what those are, how much it costs, how invasive is that procedure, and they're going to scour your website looking for it. If they can't find it, they're going to go to the next website, or they're going to close their browser altogether and start shopping on Amazon or something like that. So, what Smile Direct proved is that give them that information and they will come out of the woodwork.
So I noticed you're good friends with a couple of my good friends that have been on the show. Barry Glasser, he was on 1475. He's got the book, The Insider's Guide to Invisalign Treatment, and he's bald. I mean, should we say more? I mean, the guy's just obviously crushing it at every level. But I noticed also a lot, the orthodontists are very smart businessmen, and they have successfully kept the curriculum out of dental schools forever. They're not going to train their competitors. The endodontists, they teach the endo. You go to dental school, the oral surgeons are standing there. They'll show you everything they know. And a lot of dentists are, they're coming out of school. They got $400,000 student loans. They want to learn clear aligners. And I notice, there is that clear aligner technique by orthodontist Sandra S. Tai on Amazon, teaching clear aligners. How do you see that, where one of the way orthodontists want to stay busy is reducing competition and not teaching the general dentist? And if so, how would a general dentist learn all this?
Yeah, that's a touchy question.
Or is that so politically incorrect? And since your business is 90% orthodontist, are you saying, Howard, don't ask me those kind of stupid questions?
No. Look, I said ahead of this podcast that no questions were off topic, right? And look, it's something that even when I was a sales professional in the field, for example, when I was at 3M Unitek, I could not prevent general dentists from buying my products and using them. And some did. I think it really just boils down to, look, general dentists are going to do orthodontic treatment, whether they use conventional braces or aligners. I think what it comes down to is kind of knowing what your limitations are. But if technology continues to evolve and make it easier and the general dentists go that path, there's nothing to stop them. Howard, for me, the confusing part that I still don't understand, right, and I'm sure you probably could explain it to me, was that how does someone become a general dentist and you can do all of these services, unlike in medicine where it's sort of like, okay, well, you're a doctor now and you can do these basic procedures, but if you want to perform, these more sophisticated surgeries, you've got to continue on with your schooling and get licensed in that. I don't think orthodontists should feel threatened. They're the best at what they do. If they send the message about not just treating the smile and the social six that we see, but fixing the bite and that malocclusion and what that means over time. If that bite is off, right? If you're constantly banging on your cusp of your third molars, second molars, you're going to develop some issues and some problems. Um,
Yeah, mainly that it's going to be hard to get a date. That's going to be your only problem. I had an uncle who is 6'6", completely edentulous, hasn't worn a denture for 40 years, and he's 50 pounds overweight. And I remember when I was in dental school, we were at church, and we were in the last pew, and he's reaching in his pocket, and he's eating almonds, and I know he doesn't have a tooth in his head. And I actually stood on the kneeler, and I asked him, I said, well, will you just lean over and let me see you eat an almond with no teeth? I'm in dental school, dude. And come on. And my God, they're all callous. I mean, when he bit down on it, lifted his lip up, it exploded. I mean, I got hit by a flying almond. It's all beauty. It's just beauty. My gosh, if you, and when I was little, those big Catholic families in Kansas, if you had 7 kids, only the ugliest child that looks like she could eat a ham sandwich through a chain link fence got the braces. And now 40 years later, instead of 7 kids, it's down to 2. So now orthodontics is just a birthright, and they get it once when they're young, and then they get it again after their first divorce, and then they get it again. We live in a retirement community, and I'll never, ever forget a patient of mine named Sue, and she moved down there, and she said, I said, do you like your smile? She goes, I hate my smile. I just so wish that when I was young, my parents could afford braces. I said, well, do it now. She goes, well, I can't. I'm 65. I'm retired. And I didn't even know how to do the braces. But there was one orthodontist in town. He's only one of 2 that would teach general dentists how to do ortho. And his name was Harry Green. And he came over and he did the case. And oh my God, she was the happiest lady I'd ever seen in my life. And I know this is controversial, but her TMJ that she had her whole life was gone after like a month or 2.
Right.
And I just tell you what, my gosh, they want to look at a 65. I remember my 4 boys, their grandmother missed being 100 by 4 months. And it was so amazing if you ever used the restroom because she still had right at the bathroom, she had her little powder puffy. And here she was like 99 and 6 months. I have more hair than she did. And when she went to the bathroom, she'd always freshen her up with this powder puffy and lipstick. I mean, beauty is just a big, big thing with humans. And I just think it's going to be the fastest growing segment. And I would learn clear aligners. I would learn implantology. Those are the only things growing double digits. So if you got $400,000 of student loans, it's not my fault that if you spend 1 hour in the room doing a cleaning, the insurance company is only going to give you $50. But if you spend 1 hour in that room and you do my favorite procedure, pulling all 4 wisdom teeth, my God, they're going to give you $1,000. And the way that insurance fees are set, you're not going to make money doing cleanings, exams, x-rays, and sealants. But my gosh, in the procedures where insurance does not set the fee, which is clear aligners and implants, my gosh, I mean, even when you go to the 3 greatest civilization cities that I've ever been to, I mean, just amazing. There's a lot of them, but London, Paris, and Tokyo, if that's not 3 of the greatest top 10 cities in the world, I don't know what is. In all 3 of those, the government socialized medicine only gives you $100 US to do a molar root canal. Well, hell, in the United States, I get $800. The endodontist gets $1,200 to $1,500. You can't do that in Tokyo, where land is $1 million a square meter. So what every dentist will tell you, not on the 4 podcasts I taped in Japan, but off the record after several drinks at the bar, is that everybody just says, well, I can't treat that with the root canal. I got to pull the tooth and do an implant, because if he does the root canal like it could be done in today's technology, it would cost him $1,000 in the overhead of Tokyo. I mean, Tokyo is amazing overhead. I mean, could you imagine $1 million a square meter for the dirt alone? And so I know everybody's all into universal health care, and I don't want to get into that debate and all that kind of stuff, but all I just know is that when you spend your own money, it's most efficient. When you spend your own money on yourself, that's the most efficient. When I spend my money on Greg, I'm like, well, I know it's his birthday, but I'm not going to buy him a car. I'll just get him a Hallmark card. But when you spend other people's money on yourself, now I'm thinking maybe I need a new car. But when you spend other people's money on other people, that's government. I'm collecting other people's taxes and spending on other people, and there's no attention to details. And I know that you can't talk about that because it's so controversial. But I what I'm worried about is I had 4 kids. And now they're all independent and own their own homes, and they've made 6 independents on them. And I'm just worried about when I leave, and I know that when one of them grandkids has a baby, I'm gone. In fact, I learned that on last weekend whenever I doze off in my rocking chair, they ask, "Is he sleeping or is he dead?" And I'm like, "Damn, you're old when the grandkids ask." Is he sleeping or did he die? It's like, God dang. But I'm just worried. I want them to go to a doctor with their own money. And, if they go to a dentist and it's owned by a dental insurance company that's saying, do the dental stuff, or if they go to a DSO that's saying, sell this, sell. Well, where do my grandchildren go when they need to go to the dentist? I want them to have a personal relationship with their dentist where they pay their own money, and I want them to get treated. And it's real simple. You treat other people like you want to be treated. I mean, it can't be any easier than that. So I can't believe we went over this. Best of luck. This is the tomorrow we were talking about yesterday. It won't be long. And I like to remind kids that things take a long time. I remember when sitting in Blessed Sacrament, reading this, I forgot the newsletter. It was about the future. It was, this is all the way back in the 70s. And they were talking about, it was a story that someday when you talked on your phone, you'd be able to see the other person. Well, hell, it took like 4 decades before I did that one time on an iPhone. And it's not going to take 4 more decades that every time you call your accountant, your lawyer, your dentist, your CPA, whatever, you're going to get to see the human. And it's just better communication. It's the future, and you're on top of it. And I wish you the best of luck. And remember, your patients are going to spend all their money every month. I mean, it's an economic fact that at the end of the year, if you earned $1, you now have spent $1.05 minimum. So they're going to spend all their money. I just think it's better to spend money on your own health and wealth than it is to spend it on cars and houses and remodeling your bathroom. So I hope you hit a triple home run with this. And you have to come back on the show someday and tell us how it's going.
Would love to. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And it was great to meet with you and have this conversation.
All right, buddy. Have a great day.
Take care.